This is Immanuel just coming in. I got a request from a friend of mine back in New Jersey. I'm in Augusta now, as many of you probably already know, to do some worship chords. And it's kind of funny because I didn't learn from other people a lot when I came up. So certain things, you know, when I hear people refer to them, it's kind of funny because that's not how I think of it. I don't always think of that as a worship chord. I think of it as just an alternate way, a substitute chord, another way for me to play this. And so I just kind of want to take you on a slight little journey on how I kind of got to these types of chords. Instead of these types of chords. Very slight difference. One thing you want to do, and I'm doing this in C for a reason, because you'll notice that I'm not really using, for the most part, every once in a while I may do like a, where I'm using a black key. The reason why I'm doing it in C, because in C you can see very easily when you're playing a note that's in the scale versus out of the scale. In C scale, using all the white keys. Therefore, if you're using any black keys, you know you're doing some kind of you know, in that case that's a C7 chord. The dominant 7 is always flatted, even though the major, which sometimes sounds more interesting, has that C that's in the scale. I'm also playing with strings on. Just a little hint of it, because a lot of times you can kind of cheat playing organ sounds, playing even piano sounds. Certain things may not actually sound harmonically great when you go to like a sound like a string sound, a very pure okay. But essentially what I used to do is that whatever any scale that I want to play, you know, doesn't matter. You do this at any scale. Think of it in terms of numbers. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 again. Okay. If you think of it in numbers, learn every song you know by the numbers. So if you've memorized, oh, I'm gonna play a C, E, G, and a F, A, C, and a G, or even if you learn, I'm gonna play a C chord, a F chord, and a G, spend some time and change the way you think of it. Change the way you think of it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then this being a 1 chord, a 4 chord, and a 5 chord. The reason being is because if you know that, you can play in any key. It may take you some time to get used to it, but if you learn to look at these keys as numbers, then when you change keys, the numbers stay the same, the notes just change. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 5. You know those chords. Of course, those are boring chords. You may say, it's like, well, I want worship chords. Okay, so that's the scale: 1, 4, and 5. After a while, I realized that I can mix the 5 chord with the 1 chord. And I learned on later that people call that a substitution. And later I actually stopped even playing the left-hand chord and just played a bass note. Matter of fact, let me do this like this, so you can see it. So the C with a G chord. Now I'm only playing 4 notes, but it sounds so much more interesting than, or even this sounds kind of boring in comparison to that, and I'm playing actually less notes. And so the power of these substitutions is you can really make some really full sounding chords, not by the number of notes that you actually, keys that you actually hit, but the number of different notes that you hit. That's what makes really what they call worship chords. Okay, sound worship, like worship chords. It's not the note, how many notes, but which ones you're using. And so in reality, what they'll do is you'll be listening to a video and they say, well, I'm playing something 9. Okay, exactly. You're playing any chord is any major chord is the first, the third, and the fifth. You probably already know that. You may already know that. Right there, that's the 7th. And like I said, a lot of times people play the dominant 7th, but a lot of worship chords have a major 7th. And got the knife in there. But instead of thinking it like that all the time, just, okay, I'm playing a C chord, I'll play the 5th up from that. And you kind of memorize that, okay, well, if this note is the key, is the chord, then I'm going to take my top finger and I'm going to just actually start another chord there. A lot of times that will actually get you a nice sounding chord. And if it's a minor chord, do the same thing but with minor. Okay, but I'm going to stay in major for a second. So, and one thing I found with I think I learned this when I was playing a lot of jazz. There's an era in jazz where they didn't play a lot of chords. And you know, some jazz songs will, they'll change chords every measure or every half measure, but there was an era where all they played was, and if you ever see the music, it's very boring to look at because it's just 8 measures of one chord and then 8 measures of another chord. And so, but you listen to the recordings and you see that people are playing all these, well, you hear that, you may not see it. And what that introduces is the concept that a lot of accomplished musicians really know, and they kind of give it to you in little doses. They may not even understand why, but essentially in any key, you can use all those notes. Any chord you play, and listen to this, any chord you play, you can use all the notes in the scale. Now, mind you, it could be the major scale, it could be the minor scale, it could be the diminished scale. And this is why, you know, really good musicians, they know all kinds of runs and scales, because that comes where you actually can improv, where you can change different notes. So, what do I mean by that? If I play a normal C, let me do this here. I play a normal C chord. In C, this is really easy to see. The key of C. So I'm gonna put that 7th on it, and I'm just gonna keep that pattern. Skip a note, 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 and now I'm back to C again. But this sounds a lot better than this. Okay, but in reality, that's what I'm playing. In reality, I'm playing every single one of these notes, but like this. Now, what happens is, if I want to pick a substitution, all I have to do is say, I'm going to play some of these notes. So you can right back to where I was starting before. It's like, well, instead of playing all of these, I'm going to play just these. Okay? Or I'm going to play these. And then you can start actually moving notes around. So maybe I'm going to play these, but I'm going to play them up here. And I'm also going to add an F. Or an E. Okay? So the concept is not, I mean, you can learn a lot of chords You really can. You can learn all your ninths and your sevenths, and it's good to know what the things are called. It's great for teaching, but when you're playing, you don't want to think that hard. You really don't. So what you can do is just start thinking of it in terms of, I can play. And even when you're landing on a chord, this is helpful because you don't have to feel like you're constrained to just that chord that you picked. Because if you want to do stuff like that, can. And so, as a quick demonstration, I just wanted to, go back to that song, Welcome Into This Place, and show you the difference. So, where I might have played this is with a 1, 6, 2, 5 progression. And I'm going to play this with the bass note and the chord, like I like to play it a lot. First, I'm going to just play the song really simple. That welcome into this place progression. Okay, really simple. You almost hear nobody play it like that. Matter of fact, if you played it like that, somebody might think you're doing something interesting because it's not the norm. But I don't play it like that. Basically, I'm playing a C chord, A minor chord, D minor chord, G minor chord with the same bass. Okay. So if you go, now I'm substituting now. I got the fifth up the G with the C. Instead of the A minor, I'm gonna play the C, that relative minor, if you know what that means. Same thing with the D. And I almost never play a 5 chord, the G chord. I never play the G chord, almost never. A lot of times I play that 4th chord right behind it. Once again, I'm just doing that concept, but I'm dropping some of the notes. Okay? Because you could play the G, you could play the G7, but I'm not going to play either of those. I'm actually going to play the F. Now beyond that, I probably have to come back and do another video where I start using some of the black keys. There's certain chords you can use, even in the key of C that uses the accidentals, use the flats and sharps. I just want to introduce that concept of thinking of it in terms of what's the scale. If you know what the scale is, then you can really create your own chords, and after a while, if you play around with them, you'll know which sets against which basses. Will sound really nice. All right, this is Immanuel Comer once again. Just wanted to share a little bit with you. Talk to you later.